On this episode of Beer, Blues, and BS, I'm on vacation. Kidder's on vacation. But that's not going to stop us from putting out a great episode. And for this episode, since we are on the precipice of our good friend Big D being reassigned over to South Korea, we're sitting down, me and him, and having a great conversation. We're going to talk about his past assignments and where he's been, the good points, the bad points. We'll also talk traffic stops and car crashes and a lot of other great stories and jokes and humor along the way. You're in a good place. Welcome to the show.
It's Howard Blues and V-Mark Kidder. Pour a cold beverage, pull up a seat, enjoy time with friends.
Triple B! Well, the Triple B sucks. Okay? Come on.
Whatever, man. This is Beer, Blues, and BS. Online at beerbluesbs.com.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Beer, Blues, and BS, the podcast that is officially following the optimistic philosopher Brandon Swindlewell and his continual optimistic thoughts of we're all screwed. I'm your host, Howard Blues, here, not as always with my co-host because he's up at the State Fair enjoying Five Finger Death Punch, or at least I hope he's enjoying it. We'll find out. But taking his seat and joining me tonight, it's the trolling minister of the Triple B. Big D is here in the co-pilot seat. Big D, how you doing tonight?
Well, I'm grateful to be here as always. There is only one ass big enough to fill Kidder's chair. It's Kidder, let's be honest, but he's off doing things, so here I am hanging out.
Yeah, I'm glad you could join me and help kind of fill in because audience, by the time that you guys get to see this, Kidder and I have to take a week off because I'm going to be on vacation. He's going to be on vacation. And so thankfully, Big D was able to hop in on this special night and help me make a fill-in episode so that I don't have to try and make a clip show in like 2 weeks because those take a while. So, yeah, Big D, it has been a day. I will tell you that, and I am ready to do some drinking. How about you?
I hear ya. It's been an okay day up here, but yeah, let's have a frosty beverage. What you got?
Oh, I was going to make you go first since you are the guest.
Oh.
You know, that seems like the polite thing to do.
Okay, cool. So in the with the understanding that I am, moving, and I'll have movers coming on Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday next week, packing us out. I am trying really hard not to buy stuff. It's just me in the house right now. Mrs. D and Little D are off in the West Coast, visiting some family out there before we hop overseas, and just getting some grandma and papa time out there. With that in mind, we have some beverages still left in the house that I'm just kind of going through. This is the the leftovers. So this right here is a just one of the little bottles of Fireball that we had left in the freezer, and now it's in my glass. Fake cinnamon, gotta love it.
And fake whiskey too.
Valid.
I don't know if you heard about that lawsuit, Big D.
Well, don't tell me now until I finish it, you jerk. I'm kidding. You have captured my attention. Tell me more.
I talked about it. Gosh, I forget which episode it was on, but Fireball is getting sued for false advertising because on those little bottles, they put cinnamon whiskey, but there's no actual whiskey in it. It's, I think, like a flavored vodka or something else instead. And so, yeah, they got sued for false advertising on those.
As long as they're not lying about the proof, and as long as they're not saying it's ethanol when it's methanol, I don't care. I enjoy the taste.
I don't think most people care, but except for like apparently a few people who are like, we will sue because we want our whiskey.
Because it's an easy lawsuit.
Apparently. Wow, that sounds good. I'm trying an experiment tonight, Big D, is what I'm doing. I
doesn't involve paint, does it?
No. I have some of this. This is Western Sun prickly pear flavored vodka.
Cool.
very tasty, very tasty. And I like it as a Moscow Mule. And I've been trying to find the right ginger beer to partner with it. And so the stuff I've had and that I still had in my fridge is this Reed's. So I'm going to have one with that just to, again, remind myself because it's been a while, what that tastes like. But then I have this Griffin ginger beer. So I'll make a second one with that. I'm going to figure out which one of these is maybe better. So some experimentation. And for those purists, because apparently we have some purists on this channel, especially when it comes to old fashions. I do not have a Moscow Mule copper mug because they're over at Kidder's place. So I will be using the Howard's Cave of Wonder glass, which you can, of course, get in our merch store.
That's cool. I'm using my Wolfpack Whiskey Flight glass for the alleged whiskey. So, hey, there's a personal tie-in on both of our beverage vessels.
Now, I will also add, I am not a bartender. Don't proclaim to be one. So the way I'm doing this, Big D, I poured the ginger beer into here, and I'm going to add whiskey until it has add this vodka until it has a slightly pink color in my glass, and call that good. You gotta love how I do these things.
Very scientific.
Yep.
Damn, son. Poured yourself a double there.
Or triple, who knows?
Well, you won't. That's the point, because you're about to time warp on us.
Well, if anything, at least we have the recording to remind me what happened.
Valid. So if you want a time warp, I will see if there's any feasible way. You can ask if you could, but not if you should. I will, if I think of it, in a week and a half, I will bring a soju for you, me, and Kidder. Tread carefully, because time warping may be involved.
That could be dangerous, especially since Kidder and I have to work the next day. So
yeah, I was about to say it's a Friday. Oh no, it'll be a Wednesday, whatever.
But if you leave it with us, we'll definitely have it on the show, and then you can watch the shenanigans of what happens. So, although you never know, we sometimes have shenanigans when we're not that intoxicated. Like the night my chair broke. I don't know if you've seen that episode. Yeah.
Are you kidding?
No, we had an episode. Kidder was doing the cheap plugs, and I don't know if you recall. I had a director's chair Lefty gave me. The back on it snapped off, which then the way that whole chair is set up, the whole thing gave way, and so I just went down. And unfortunately, we didn't have the multicam on. And Kidder was talking. I had actually muted myself because I was messing with stuff on my pants. So we don't have any footage of it. We just have Kidder as he's going I think Howard fell. He did fall. Howard's down. So, but that did happen. So I'm in a loaner chair now. So it's tasty. So. Yeah, you're going to be coming through, and I think most of our audience has picked up if they've been watching the last few episodes or listening to the last few episodes. But you are leaving the country. You have been reassigned. I think that's the right term. I keep wanting to say redeployed, but I don't know that deployment is actually what's going on. I'm not military. So you're being reassigned, and you're off to South Korea, which you've been there before once.
I am, and I have been, yeah. So from August of 2015 to August of 2016, I was assigned to Kunsan Air Base. It's about 2/3 of the way south on the west coast in Korea. It's a port town. It's the more austere of our two main bases up there, the other one being Osan, about 2.5 hours north. That one's about an hour south of Seoul. If anyone cares to reference. South Korea itself is about the size of Indiana. But yeah, I will be going to a different locale this time. I'll be going to Camp Humphreys, and I'll be there for a year. So it's a good chance to get back and eat all the bulgogi and explore and do some things that we didn't do in Korea last time. We didn't do a DMZ tour, although I don't know if I'll be allowed to, considering what's happened in recent news with Johnny Idiot jumping across the border. Aside from that, we're looking at doing we did a bicycle trip from Incheon to Busan, which is like northwestern part of the country down to the southeastern part of the country. Should have taken 5 days. I got us lost in Seoul on day 1, so it took 6. Yeah, it was bad. It was a good hour and a half before we realized, oops, I did a dumb. But no, it was still a good time. And we're looking at doing that again, taking Little D along. We'll have a bike trailer handy. And yeah.
Oh, that sounds good. And I think I've seen some photos from that bike trip, and I may have used one to like Photoshop your hair blonde once for a revenge thing.
So I can think of the photo that you're talking about, and that actually, you didn't have to alter that. I was outside. We were at the school that Mrs. D was just about to start teaching at the time, and we were out on the roof because roof access is much more of a thing over there than it is here. And it was just that day in August where it was really sunny, and I just hit my hair the right way, and yeah, it looked blonde.
No, I did a little bit of touch up. I enhanced the blonde. I mean, it was already blonde. I may have looked quite a while at your Facebook photos to be like, which one of these is going to be the easiest?
The one with the sun.
Yep. And I'm like, okay. So yeah. There is a little bit of Photoshop enhancement to that, but you have to have some fun with it. And yeah. So South Korea, are you excited to be back? I know you're talking about some of the things that you want to do, but I've also known from past conversations with you, some of the places that you've had to be assigned have been better than others. So where does South Korea rank of all the places you've been stationed? Is this one of the better places, or is this like, we can tolerate it, or is this like, I'll be counting down the days on this year?
So that is actually a really hard one to answer, because all the places we've been, and to give you the timeline, from September of 2009 to September of 2011, I was in far western Germany, about a half hour north of Trier. Then I was on Guam for nearly 4 years. Then we did Korea, and then in 2016, when my dog pooped on your floor, we were on our way to England, and we were there for 2.5 years. We lived in Oxford, which was just south of Oxford, for those 2.5 years. As far as which is the, how do we rack and stack? That is a really hard one to answer for all 4 of those locations. Everyone has had something that's really good. Everyone has had something that's kind of British traffic, horrible, absolutely horrible, especially in London. I do not recommend the cardiac patients drive in London. I say this having been one and having done that. The thing with Korea, it was a sleeper hit. For a little bit of background, Kunsan is you cannot bring families there, but as I mentioned earlier, Mrs. D was teaching at a school in country. Well, the added wrinkle to that was up by the other base, 2.5 hours away by bus. So I saw Mrs. D from Friday evening to Sunday evening for pretty much a year. Some breaks in that, but like the bike trip, and we had some Christmas and New Year's, little different, but for the most part, that year was Yeah, I was down at Kunsan in a cramped little dorm during the week, and then up there at our house on the weekend. Despite that, Korea was a sleeper hit. We had a great time there. The positives far outweighed the negatives. And this time we'll actually be living on the same freaking roof, or under the same roof. So that'll be nice. That's a whole lot of word salad to maybe not actually answer your question.
I mean, it gives the idea that, okay, it wasn't bad. It had downsides, but yeah, I mean, clearly there's some willingness to go back. It's not like you're like, grabbing the door frame like, no, don't take me.
Yeah, and to be clear, I had to volunteer to go back. I was supposed to be here for 4 years due to big Air Force changing the rules as far as how long you have to be somewhere. Career progression implications really came into play. Some other factors, but that was one of them.
I'm going to guess one of the others is you've been here for like a year and yet I haven't come see you. You're like, well, damn it, he's missing his chance. I'm leaving.
Yep, it's all because of you, Kidder and Howard. And who are you? I'm drilling Kidder so hard, I'm bashing him while he's not even here to defend himself.
I was going to say, I think that fireball is affecting you. That fake whiskey, it's going right to your head.
So yeah, I back in December, I was talking to my assignments officer. There's one person who controls all the assignments for all of us peasants, and I was just saying, hey, this is where we're at. We're looking to go back overseas. Career progression questions. Don't want to be stagnant at all. Long story short, he was in the middle of an assignment selection window. And she said, well, I have this one. You want to do a short tour? You want to go to somewhere for 12 months? And I was looking at the list of what was available. I'm like, okay, so you're going to be talking about Korea. And out of like the 6 options that were available in Korea, I'm like, I was able to rule them out really, really quickly. So it was like, you're going to send me to support the army, aren't you? She's like, yeah. I'm like, okay. Can I get back to Europe after that? And she's like, well, of course, nothing's a golden ticket, but you will increase your chances of doing so. So I'm like, hey, Mrs. D, here's a situation. Let's go. So,
yeah, because if I'm not mistaken, your ultimate goal would be to get back to Germany. If
Germany, yes. Yeah. If not Germany, then somewhere in Europe. If not somewhere in Europe, then anywhere overseas with the exception of Hawaii and Guam, simply because we've done the island life and we're not really interested in going back right now just for the whole family standpoint. We got great memories of Guam, but it's just not a good time for us to be there, knowing what is there and knowing what we need for the whole family to kind of thrive there. And I say that more from a professional standpoint, not like amenities. Do you have what you need? Medical kind of thing. Does you got what you need from those standpoints?
So let me just ask, because I know you've stayed in Germany. That was your first assignment. Was that the best? Is that why you want to get back there? I know there's a nostalgia aspect to it, but I'm just asking.
There is, yeah. So Germany was, first assignment, first place I lived on my own. I mean, never mind the fact that I had been married and divorced prior to that. I had my own place at the time, but it was up here in Grand Forks. And, being really close to home, it didn't feel like it was on my own per se. So that's my side of it. Mrs. D had been living in Germany for a minute prior to us meeting. She's from the West Coast in the States. She's American, as you know. But that was her real big branch out and, kind of establishing herself in her adult life as well. And that's where she discovered a love for teaching, which is why she's going for her PhD in international education right now. But that was her home for quite a while. And it wasn't like like she didn't live anywhere near any of the bases, like Ramstein, Spangdahlem, any of the army bases that are kind of peppered around there. She was up in Braunschweig, which is, I don't know how close it is to Denmark, but it's pretty close to Denmark. It was about a 5-hour train ride. No, it was a 5-hour drive, 8-hour train ride. 500-ish kilometers away, i.e. from Grand Forks to Twin Cities in terms of distance.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, and she wasn't, I think she was either loosely aware or just not aware at all that there were American bases over there prior to us meeting, because she was nowhere near them. She would have had no reason to come across any Americans in that part of the country. So yeah, that was, there was a lot of nostalgia in our own rights, but then of course we met there and where we hit it off. So yeah, there's a lot of different factors that really appeal or give Germany a lot of appeal in particular.
No, I get it. It's I think that everybody finds that fondness for that kind of first place where they're on their own. Like Lefty and I have talked about, one of these days when we both decide to retire, we're going out to Western Montana, Idaho. Even though, North Dakota is our home and we love it here, there's a little bit of a nostalgia for that mountain life we lived when we were first married out there. So we'd like to go back, and it seems like a nice place to just, okay, we're retired. We're good. But that's a long ways off, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So
I was gonna say you got a few minutes before that time comes around.
Yeah, I do, and I'm enjoying what I'm doing right now. So it's, I will probably be one of those, eventual old decrepit people in the historical society that's like, oh, God, will he just retire? Because there's some people, like, it's a fun place to work and it's a good job, and we have definitely some people who have like hung on past retirement because it's like, it's not that bad of a job. So
yeah,
it's a good place when people are like, nope, you'll have to pry me from the desk to get me out of here. So, but okay, so let's see. We talked a little bit Germany, a little bit Korea, and yeah, I knew Guam. I didn't realize you'd been in Guam for 4 years.
Just about. It was 3 years and 9 months. Yep.
That's quite a bit, and Guam is like so in the middle of nowhere, that there's got to be some real challenges to living in Guam.
Just differences. Really, the biggest challenge that we came across is there's just so much stuff that doesn't deliver to a PO box on Guam. So, like, I forget. There were things that did, things that didn't. It depended on who you talked to. I thought it was kind of silly that some companies won't deliver to a PO box on Guam, but they will deliver to an APO box on Guam, which is like the military mail system. In fairness to that, what they're actually doing is shipping it to California, and then it gets piped into the military mail system. So they really aren't shipping to APO per se on Guam, because it's in the same building as the PO boxes, but whatever. The biggest challenge, I'd say, is avoiding island fever. The people that we came across that were the most miserable were the ones that didn't get out, didn't do anything. They would stay at home all day and watch Netflix, and they would hate on the local population. And oh yeah, by the way, they're Americans too. There was one person in particular who put on one of the Facebook pages for the base, I just saw somebody walk into some store and they walked out with a whole bunch of bags, and like, who should I report that to? And somebody else like, that's called shopping, you dummy. Just finding things to nitpick about. But yeah, it was, so the being on the island, and to the comments of trying to avoid island fever, The island is 26 miles long, north to south, and then anywhere between 4 and 11 miles wide, east to west. So you can drive around the island in an hour and a half to 2 hours, like completely circumnavigate. But there's still plenty to do. You just got to be willing to get off your butt and go out and do stuff, look stuff, hiking, scuba. We still got our snorkeling gear here. We didn't actually get scuba gear, all out scuba gear, but we definitely have our snorkel gear. We got our tennis rackets. So we played tennis, lots of hiking, lots of good food. We ordered sushi from one place in particular so much that I would drive down, because we lived on base at the time. I would start driving down to Tumon, which is on the western part of the island. There was a little road down there called the Strip, similar to Vegas, just no casinos and no debauchery. But it was about a half-hour drive, and it would be a half-hour or so for him to get our sushi order. It got to the point where I would start driving. Mrs. D would call up. Hi, I'd like to place an order. They're like, oh yeah, we'll see Big D in 20 minutes. I'm like, yes, they knew our order.
We had a pizza place like that in Eureka, Montana when we lived there. Because we would do pizza, usually it was Friday night, and so we would call and they would pick up and they're like, you want the usual? Yes, please. All right, 20 minutes. It's like, okay.
Yeah, it's a small town vibe.
Yeah. Which, you have to admit, there is kind of something nice about like that. Oh, you recognize me, and not in a, like they weren't ever like upset about it. I'm sure it was like, oh yeah, it's these guys. It's the the usual order. There's no fuss. We didn't cause problems. How many people live on Guam? What estimate? I don't expect you to know it exactly off the top of your head, but
ballparking, it's somewhere in between 160 and 170,000.
Okay, it's more than I thought.
And I believe that is not counting military population, because there's the Air Force base, and then there's the Navy base down on the southwestern part of the island.
That's a lot of people for an island that size.
Uh-huh.
Wow. I was expecting it to be a much lower population count. I don't know. I guess I was like maybe 1,000 people. So. Yeah.
Well, I had no idea either. I had to look it up a little while after I got there. I'm like, how the hell many people are there? I was like, it's a lot of people.
Okay, so now I have to ask. So is there a lot of like apartment buildings and apartment living, or just small housing? Kind of your usual city spread where bit of apartments, bit of residential, bit of the palatial.
It's a big mix. It's actually pretty representative of your typical urban suburban area in the Midwest. Actually, you got some standalone houses. You have apartments. You have housing complexes, HOA type nonsense. Yeah, you got your wide mix. The only thing that's kind of different is that not every house has a driveway. Like you'll have the road, but then there'll just be grass that you just turn into and just pull up, and it's like, oh yeah, there's a house, 30 yards away, and no concrete driveway, but still park right in front of that. Houses, like sizing wise, all the houses that I've been in, and I am referencing your townhouse from when my dog pooped on your floor. A lot of houses are probably between that and 3 times the square footage. So some of those houses can get up to 3,000 square feet pretty easily.
Yeah. Because I was going to say the condo was 1,600 square feet. I think it was like 1,660.
Yeah.
So, and really, you could just use as a time reference the time you and Beth came to visit. You don't have to keep putting it as the time my dog pooped on your garage floor.
Well,
so.
Poop is a fun word. So
just makes it like, hey, it's the one time we got to see you, and like that's the thing that you remember, not the restaurant we took you to or any of like.
Because I felt so bad about it. We came back and there was that giant steamer on your carpet. I'm like, oh no.
That wasn't even the worst. My brother-in-law lived with us for a while, and he was dating a girl who got a dog for emotional support, and it was this little puppy. And they left it in my garage one day, and like came back like 3 hours later, and there was like it had like pooped and peed like in 8 different places throughout my garage. And I still ended up being the one cleaning it up.
Nice.
Yeah. so yeah, like I don't even really remember your dog. Taking a mess on our floor, it's like that was not the most traumatizing thing that happened to our floor in that place. But okay. Well, great. I'm learning more about Guam, and I was disappointed. We never Lefty and I have a couple of times before we had kids talked about like visiting you and Beth wherever you were. You know, we thought about Guam.
Plane tickets were horrendous. It would have been like $3,200 for both of y'all total.
Hey, well, we're constant savers, so we would have looked at what the cost would have been. We would have saved up for it and such. Like we also thought about that when you were over in England. It's like, well, it could be fun to go to England and such. We just haven't. We had other things pop up, so all sorts of fun problems. Because I'm basically Charlie Brown. I kid you not. So I'm family free this weekend, Big D, and last night I was up till 1 a.m. Getting this week's podcast edited, and I got it rendered. And then like Junior was up at 5, and then they got up. Lefty started getting them up at like 6:30 or 6 o'clock. And so like I had to hold Little Miss while she got Junior up, and then helped him get in the car and all of that. And I'm like, okay, I should go back to bed. And I slept for a little bit. Finally got up. I'm like, okay, let's go get some food. We got some food. I'm sitting there cooking something for breakfast, and literally go to grab the pan out of the oven and ended up burning my thumb. I think you can even see.
Kinda, yeah.
Because that was one of those, like, I started pulling it up, and it's like I could tell it was burning. And I'm like, I'm either dropping this on the floor, trying to throw it back in the oven, or I'm just getting it out. And I'm like, tag with it. I got it out. So I've had this. So I have all these projects that I want to do today, and it's like on my thumb. And so I keep bumping the damn thing. It's just been pain all day. And then just because I didn't get enough sleep, I've been fighting a headache and came back downstairs. I'm like, okay, let's check the podcast. Oh, what? It didn't render? Start
the editing was done, right?
Yeah. So I had to start the render again at 4 o'clock, because that's usually when I put it up on YouTube. And I usually put it up on there because I usually leave work around 4:30. And one of the last things I do before I leave work is I set up the post to announce the YouTube version on our Facebook page. It's the last thing I do. I got it all set. I'll schedule it. So I have it come up at 4. So 4:15 comes around. Local geek texts me. He goes, "Hey Howard, just so you know, podcast's not on YouTube yet."
Of course he did.
I'm like, I know. It just stopped rendering. It just finished rendering. I'm uploading it now. Damn it. It's like, I'm working on it. So it's up. I got it up. But I just had to laugh. I'm like, seriously, the one time I'm having enough day. Let it go, local geek. Let it go. So that's okay. I can't complain too much. He is like the biggest fan of the show. So after South Korea, you said you want to go back to Europe, and we've kind of been talking about these places positively. And you said that with all of these places, there are good sides and bad sides. What's been the worst thing you've had to kind of deal with?
Let's see here. Just kind of popcorn and things here, cherry picking. I mentioned British traffic. There was in two respects. One on the motorway M6 going from Oxford up to Inverness, Scotland, should be an 8-hour drive. Definitely took us 12 because M6 is anecdotally M6 is pretty horrible for traffic on the weekend, i.e. Friday afternoon. In London, couple of things there. There's what's known as a congestion zone, which I had loosely been briefed on what that was, but not completely. I was given to believe it depended on whether your car burned regular gas or petrol or diesel. I didn't have a diesel engine. I'm like, oh yeah, cool, good to go. It's the congestion charge is certain areas within London where you cannot drive unless you live there, or you hop online and you pay the £11 per day thing, like $15, I think, at the time. And then you're good for 24 hours. Good to go, no problem. Completely blew it off. Well, I got a penalty notice in the post for having contravened British law, and I was given a fine. Yeah, I guess fine, or invoice, if you will, for £360, which was, I forget, it's ballparking like $500 at the time. But if you pay within the first 2 weeks, it's half as much. And you can also elect to dispute it, which I did. I knew I was going to lose, but I also bought myself some time. Said, I have visiting forces. This is what we were told. And the response was written in the most finger wagging British way possible. And I don't say that pejoratively. It just had I read it, Mrs. D read it, and she's like, they're just wagging their fingers at us. So yeah, ultimately paid £180. Because everything's cameras over there. The other fun part is traffic cameras all over the place for bus lanes, congestion zones, red lights, and speed. Now, they're very kind to you, and they tell you with the speed cameras, they paint hash marks on the road so you see where the start of the scanning area is and where the end of the scanning area is. Trouble is, in London, that shit goes over only half of an intersection, and oh yeah, there's probably a red light camera there too, so if you're in a hurry, pick your poison.
So, just hearing all this, it makes me wonder how they ever filmed Top Gear in England, but also probably explains why they filmed so many segments outside of England because of that.
Yeah, probably.
But my other follow-up question that I had when you were talking about disputing it, I'm just curious if on that, like, I don't know if it was a form that you filled out to dispute it, if they had just as an option, like, why you're disputing this as I'm just a dumb American. Was that an option? Just like, I'm sorry.
Nah, as I recall, it was pretty straightforward. It was you hop online, they give you a website and a reference number, and you just type in what you're doing with it, and you're paying it or you're disputing it, and then you just type in your narrative as far as why, and then that's pretty much it. So it was all free form.
Yeah, it's just I wonder how many people make that mistake.
Lots.
Visiting.
It's got to be lots. Now, if they're visiting and they're renting, and that goes to the rental company, and then they eventually track you down, you could blow it off. If you do, you probably don't want to go back to England, but you could blow it off because nobody representing the Crown is going to extradite your butt for having failed to pay a traffic ticket. But they will get theirs if you ever go back.
Yeah, man. Oof. That's actually like it just to, besides England, but it's part of the reason I don't like driving in big cities or at all is because things like figuring out parking, navigating try not to break traffic laws while doing it.
Yeah.
And I just, man, I'll stick to my small towns where, it's like I know how to get there. So
in Germany, so the whole you can drive as fast as you want on the Autobahn, mostly true.
I think you've told me about this. Yeah, but go ahead.
Yeah, there are. Yeah, I remember recounting it for one of the episodes in the past, but we'll do it again because, hey, it's kind of, I laugh at it now because it wouldn't break my bank now. But if you drive into any European country, you'll see a big blue sign with a picture of a cityscape and a number with a red circle. That's enforced speed limit in the city. You'll have a cityscape with a red line, and then same thing. Black number, white background, red circle, enforced speed limit. There'll also be, and future Howard, if you want to grab one of these signs, perhaps.
I still have the graphic from the last time we talked about it. So
I did put it up in the run sheet, didn't I? You'll have a funny looking H, which is motorway. To us American types, we call that the interstate. They call it the motorway. Or Autobahn, Autostrada in Italy, Autoroute in French. Insert other languages that I can say poorly here. In Germany specifically, it is not that black number, white background, red circle for enforced speed limit. It is a blue filled in square with a number for recommended speed limit. Our analog to that would be you're on the interstate, exit ramp, yellow speed limit sign, recommended. But there are areas in Germany that have enforced speed limits, most notably in major urban areas rather, and interchanges from one Autobahn to the other. And I blew one off. And that also happened to be a blind turn where the Polizei were waiting, like, come over here. And then, sure enough, and I knew it was coming, but I got a bill in the mail for 95 euros. And when you're an E3 and you're making, at the time, like $19,000 a year in 2010, that's a whole lot of your paycheck.
Yeah. Ooh. Ooh. I have, for the most part, avoided most like speeding tickets and such. I'm a pretty conservative driver. I have one, and I still can't believe I got it. Lefty and I were traveling home from UND. It was Thanksgiving, and it was the Thanksgiving where my brother was down in the ICU in Rapid City when he was battling leukemia. And we're driving to Bismarck because the plan was to drive to Bismarck, do Thanksgiving with her family, and then the next day drive down to Rapid City and see my brother. And it was one of those fun North Dakota winter storms where the wind's blowing. And so as you're driving along the interstate, you have sections where there's nothing blocking the wind and snow, and it's just a whiteout. And so I wasn't driving with cruise control because that would be stupid during this. And I was going into one of these whiteouts. And so I was focused on trying to make sure I stayed on the road. It's not like the interstate is just perfectly straight and there's no obstacles. So just trying to focus on that, and came out of it, the whiteout, and I happened to be going like 8 over the speed limit, and some highway patrol pulled me over. And I'm sure in his mind it's, I gotta stop this guy from speeding. Doesn't he realize it's a snowstorm? I tried to explain to him, like, I was just trying to stay between the lines. I wasn't watching my speedometer at that point. Sorry if I got a little heavy-footed going through.
I'm assuming the speed limit at that point was like 30.
No, because this was interstate, so I mean you could still go 75, so I was going a bit over, but I told my parents, like, I when I got to Rapid City, I'm like, I just, I got a speeding ticket. Because they were paying my insurance, so they were going to see my insurance go up.
Oh, yeah.
Said speeding ticket. So I'm like, I'm just going to tell you, here's what happened. They're like, yeah, just pay it. So, but the other one, and I don't know if I've ever told you this, Big D, but I actually, for the longest time, it finally went off my record a couple of years ago. But for the longest time I had on my record, I had a, was it record? I can't remember if it was. Oh, it was an exhibition driving ticket on my record.
You wild child.
Have I ever told you this story?
I feel like you did, but recount.
So for the audience, when I got my first vehicle, it was a 1986 Jeep Cherokee Laredo, and with beautiful red interior, straight out of the 80s. It was great, but it had no acceleration. It had no get up and go, so you could floor this thing and it would still just slowly tick up. So I just got in the habit of flooring it all the time, because why not? So that was my vehicle. That's what I got trained on driving on. And comes high school, and it's prom. And for prom, my Jeep Cherokee, not the best prom vehicle. So my mom's like, well, yeah, take my brand new Yukon with new tires. It'll be great. It'll be safe. It'll be nice. Okay, great. I'm not used to this car whatsoever. Driving. End of the dance, we're heading back to my place to change and then go to the after party. And I'm backing up, and the plan was just to, hey, back up, turn, kind of back up in an arc, and then pull forward and out. Kind of a nice, like M maneuver. And because I was so not used to driving that car and the tires, I ended up doing like a police turn 180 spin with this thing. And like the car stops. I'm like, oh my gosh, everybody okay? I'm so sorry. I'm so not used to driving this car. And the one gentleman who we were with for prom, because we were kind of double dating it, and there he goes, I'm okay, but you're about to get a ticket. And sure enough, across the street at the gas station was a sheriff deputy, and he lit me up like that. I'm just like, put in park. So I got an $86 exhibition driving ticket because he thought that I did it on purpose. And I told him honestly, like, I'm sorry, it's not my car. I'm not used to it. And it's like, I kind of joked. I'm like, who does exhibition driving in a Chevy Yukon?
I'll be happy you didn't get that ticket in Minnesota. It would have been 4 times as much.
I'm sure. Again, this is one of those, like, we went back to my place. Everybody was changing. I told my parents what happened. They're like, we'll pay the ticket. I'm like, thank you. Because they knew. They're like, you told him, right? I'm like, I did, but I'm a kid, so they don't believe me. They think I'm trying to show off for my prom date, who is just a friend of mine who, I went with because I could. I'm going to pour myself this other ginger beer. I don't know if you were planning on having a second.
I've already been going at it. In the spirit of leftovers, here's a glass of 19 Crimes. I forget if it's Cabernet or Merlot. I don't know. It was half empty. No, it's not. But while you're pouring that, for what it's worth, if we're talking about horrible tickets, I will preface this by saying I did not experience this one. However, what we were briefed when I first got to England is speeding tickets in particular. It's not like that congestion charge that I was bitching about a moment ago, where it's like a fixed fine, like most fines are. Speeding tickets in England, they will they won't take a fixed amount of money so much as they will take a percentage of your weekly pay, whatever that calculates out to be. So for a 1 to 10 mile per hour over, because they go mile per hour over there, that is, under British law, they can legally require you to pay a fine of 125 to 175% of your weekly pay. So with us living there at the time, that would have been the 125% would have been like $1,200.
Ouch.
Yeah. So you best believe I followed those speed limit signs.
I just want to just say, because I am, as I said, trying this Griffin ginger beer. This stuff is excellent. It's made with honey. Just because I read that on there. That has a much smoother and sweeter taste. That's good. The second one's better than the first. I'm going to put it that way. So, hey, for you, if you're making your own Moscow Mule, skip this stuff. If you can, get this stuff. Sorry, audio listeners, that joke works better visually. So, yeah, I tried my hardest not to get speeding tickets and such. That's again, I grew up in South Dakota where speeding tickets were like astronomical, so you just don't speed because those ones hurt. But again, because my insurance goes up. A lot of times, like growing up, it's like, man, my parents are giving me a car. I would like to keep said car because it's nice to have that autonomy to drive places.
A little bit.
So I never got a ton of them. I really like the two that I've told you are pretty much, I think those are the only tickets I've gotten. Mm-hmm. There was a failure to yield accident. I did the Cherokee Laredo did get hit once. I honestly believe the guy was speeding. It was one of those, like I was turning left. And it's a section of road. This was in Spearfish. There's a section when you were coming into town where it drops down. It goes from a 55 down to a 35. And I don't think this guy really was slowing down to the correct speed because I looked and I'm like, I have plenty of room for a gap to turn. And I looked over and I'm like, okay, I'm going to go. And he was right there and just clipped the end of me. And so I got a failure to yield. I'm like, I don't think he was going faster than he should have been. But again, I was the younger driver in that one, so I got the ticket.
Yeah.
But,
dumbest ticket I've ever gotten. I've only gotten 2 speeding tickets only 2 speeding tickets. The second one was definitely the dumber one because I was coming home from a friend's house. Feel like it was spring break freshman year. And 1:30 in the morning, I sped past the cop who pulled me over. To the left lane, the speed limit was 55. I'm like, screw this, I'm going around. And then I'm pulling I was on 35E South, heading on to 94. And all of a sudden, the car I passed getting really, really close, like this close up on me. I'm like, oh, crap. Man, he's way up there really close. Man, get this guy off me. I hope he's not a cop. 3 seconds later, woo! But I was 19 and dumb.
Yeah. No, those are it. I've been pulled over a couple of other times, but not gotten a ticket. I had one. Kidder was in the car for this. This is a good story. We had gone down to South Dakota, to the South Dakota School of Mines and Technology. My sister was going to school there. She was doing a production, and I can't remember if it was. She's either doing Avenue Q, which just remind me, Big D, were you along for?
I've not seen it, but you described what it was, and so I chuckle at the premise, but I've not actually seen it.
I was going to ask. I think, and I realized who it was. I think your first wife was in the car with myself, Kidder, Farva. I can't remember if you were there. And I was playing music, including music from Avenue Q, and the song "The Internet Is for Porn" came on, and had everybody singing it except her, and she was mortified. But I can't remember if you were in the car for that one.
I doubt it because I don't think we'd fit, and B, I feel like I would remember that.
Yeah, that was a good one. But anyway,
she would not be mortified today, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. Anyway, so my sister was either doing Avenue Q or it was Robin Hood Men in Tights. which is kind of an interesting story. It's the only theatrical production ever done of Robin Hood Men in Tights. There isn't a play. She literally went so far as to reach out to Mel Brooks to ask for the right to do the show. And so it's the only stage version of that. Anyway, it was one of those two shows, and we'd gone to that. We were on our way back, and one of those things, I had the cruise control on, cruising along, going the speed limit, especially because I have Kidder in the car, and Kidder's the kind of asshole who pulls up his speedometer, his accelerometer on his phone and checks your speed, especially if he thinks you're speeding.
Of course he did.
Because my odometer in the Matrix is just slightly off, and I know it.
I mean, your speedometer?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I don't know how many actual shots of vodka I'm up to, so let's just be glad I could form a sentence. So my speedometer was...
How many fingers am I holding up?
One, and that's inappropriate, Big D. This is a family show.
Future Howard will bleep it out. Anyway, continue.
Yeah. Anyway, the speedometer's off, and I know it. Like, hey, it's really, if you go about 3 miles over, you're actually then going the speed limit. So he, of course, checks. So, of course, I'm going the speed limit. And it's one of those situations where semi-truck, right? So I know I'm going to pass the semi-truck. Somebody else has started to pass, but I'm definitely going faster than the car that's passing. And it's that situation where you hope that they make the pass and you don't have to turn off your cruise control and slow down, right? Uh-huh. You know that situation.
Yeah.
So that's the situation. That's the situation I'm in. And the car in front of me gets past the semi, and I'm right about to step on my brake, turn off my cruise, because I was getting right up on their bumper. I'm still a safe distance, but I was getting right up on them, and they turn on their cruise, or they I'm getting closer. They turn on their turn signal. Turn signal means you're gonna move over. So I'm like, okay, I don't need to turn off my cruise control because they should be moving over, and I'll go past them.
Yep.
Well, they didn't move over. They kept their turn signal on for 5 or 10 seconds. They had the space. They could have moved over, but they didn't. And so I got right up on their bumper, and of course, I was paying attention. I turned my, I hit the brake and all that. They finally moved over, and we went past, and they were very upset about it. The passenger actually climbed into the back seat, or as far as she could, to flip me off as we went by, because she was that enraged. We keep going. We get to the Crown Butte exit. We stop because Lefty needed to use the restroom. And Kidder and I watch as this Morton County Sheriff deputy comes off the interstate there, and he circles around the building. Kidder and I are like, Kidder's like, huh. Because he knows law enforcement. He's like,
Ruh-roh.
We go and we get back on our way. We maybe go 3-4 miles, and that Morton County Sheriff pulls us over. He goes, yeah, we got a call reporting your vehicle driving erratically. The people who failed to move over were so upset they called and reported me. The Morton County Sheriff's like, I've been behind you now for about 5-6 miles. He goes, you're driving perfectly fine. I'm like, and I told him what happened. I'm like, this is what happened. They were very upset about it. I said, but nobody was in actually any danger. Nobody got close. I was paying attention. I don't know why they were that mad about it. He goes, okay, well, he goes, they didn't stick around to make a complaint, so I don't really have their story. So you're almost to Bismarck. That's where you're going. Safe travels. So it's like I got pulled over and didn't get a ticket. So woohoo, which is good because if I had gotten a ticket, Kidder would never have let me that one down, especially with him being in the car.
Oh no! To this day, yeah, with us all being darn near 40, yeah, he would still bring that up. It'd be at the bottom of his old-fashioned glass after he finished a cherry.
Yeah. The other one, and I wasn't driving, but it's still a great story. So when I was in high school, I was good friends with the band director's son. We'll just call him Foggy because his real name is Chris, and that gets a little confusing. Anyway, so Foggy is driving his dad's car. And when I mean his dad's car, not his everyday driver, his dad gave him permission. This was our summer of freshman year of college. We're going out to a friend's house who lives way out kind of north of Bismarck. But this car is it's like a 1950s Cadillac.
Oh my.
Red and white, convertible, pristine.
I'm already nervous.
I mean, this car is gorgeous. And we're allowed to drive this thing, So Foggy's driving. We're out at our friend's place. We actually were out there having a water gun fight in the dark, which if you've never had a water gun fight in the dark, so much better. Because there's nothing like walking around in the dark and all of a sudden from the bush you get hit with a spray of water. It's like psychological horror mixed with a water gun fight. It's excellent. I'm too old to engage in this now, but hey, for the kids who might be, have made it this far, of two guys in their near 40s, give that one a try. So we had done that. It was 3 a.m. We're on our way back. And because we're coming in on rural roads, and such, and there's deer, and Foggy doesn't want to hit a deer with his dad's car. He's going like 35 in a 55. So he's driving slow because he doesn't want to damage the car.
Fair enough.
And
roads at night, yeah.
So we're coming basically along River Road. There's a spot where you can turn up and head up towards Washington. And we come off of this, and we had actually had this car that had pulled right up on our tail and then dropped back off. And they followed us as we made this turn off of River Road and up. And all of a sudden, we're lit up. And here it is, a sheriff who pulls over. His BS excuse for pulling us over, and I do say it was BS, was that we had crossed the center line. We hadn't. But he was, teenagers in a car going 35 and a 55 at 3 a.m. He was probably thinking we were going to a party.
or coming home from.
Yeah. And, he told her, and Foggy just, told, but no, we're coming in from a friend's house out in the country. He goes, this is my dad's car. I'd hate to hit a deer. It's, this road is notorious for deer. He goes, so I'm driving slow. And the guy goes, well, okay, I just had to pull you over because you're only going like frickin' 35, Grandpa. And he goes to run this information, and Foggy's like, did he call me Grandpa? It's like, yeah, he did. We made it home safely. But I just always remember that one. Freaking 35, Grandpa.
That's awesome. I definitely thought that the moment you started emphasizing the level of pristineness of this car, I thought that it was going to get folded around the telephone pole or something.
Yeah, no. I wanted to express just why he would go like, I'm not speeding. I'm getting this car home safely. So, all good things, all good times.
Speaking of cars, this is one of the rare times when I bring up the first wife. Although I guess she's been referenced 3 times in this episode now.
Yeah,
that's a record. I did not bear witness to this, but apparently after we split up, she bought a brand new car, like a brand new car. And I don't know if she had gap insurance or not, but apparently drove it off the lot and into a ditch. I did not witness this. I only heard about it. I don't know if any part was being embellished to me because I was really, really bitter at the time. And literally, I was still in my, 23 at the time. So bitter guy at the time. I don't know how much of that was played up, but yeah, if true, I'm like, that's just.
Yeah. Oof. Yeah. Well, yeah. Well, I've been in my fair share of auto accidents, and they're never fun.
No. My very first one, I inadvertently rear-ended a pastor when I was 16 in downtown St. Paul.
Yeah, my first one I mentioned was the Jeep getting hit. The second one was when my Grand Am got totaled. That was the one where I was collateral damage to. Have you not heard about this one?
I think I have, but that sounds like college time frame, which my memories are kind of loose and scattered.
Well, and if I'm not mistaken, I think you might have been gone by then.
Possibly.
Because I think you graduated and had gone back to the cities.
Yeah.
And I was still up in Grand Forks. But I had gone back to school after I didn't get hired for education. Because I learned that I was 3 classes away from my history degree. And my advisor, who was kind of crap, did not tell me I was 3 classes away from having my history degree.
And we're talking about the bachelor's, not the master's.
Correct. I had taken enough history classes that if I took 3 more, I could have also, I would have had a double major. I would have had a.
That's right, because your actual major was education.
Correct.
Okay,
Correct.
Gotcha.
So it's like, well, what the hell? I'll go back and try and get this, and I'll pick up a special ed minor because that might help me get a job. So I was going to class, and I was on, I think it was Demers, because you had to go from Demers and then turn and go north and then turn on to University.
Yeah.
My Grand Forks road geography is a little rusty. It's been a while since I've been up there.
Yeah, Demers Columbia University. Yep.
Correct. So I'm on Demers in the left-hand turn lane, parked next to a Budweiser truck, which is important to this story. We're under a red light. Car coming towards us runs the red, and a car heading south on Columbia, it collides. Actually, I don't think that's Columbia. I think Columbia's on the other side. Was it? Because it's west side of campus. What's the one?
The west side of campus? Oh, no. That's the road. That's 42nd. That goes in front of the Alaris.
Correct. Okay, yeah. So it's 42nd. So car coming towards me, car that has the green light on 42nd goes, this car hits, and they come all the way across the intersection and collide to me in the Budweiser truck. So I'm collateral damage, not involved really in the actual accident. Which you'll appreciate this. I was on the phone with my mom at the time because it was winter. It was almost Christmas. We were talking about what the Christmas plans were. And I'm talking to her, and I on the phone. I saw it. Like, you could tell. I'm like, you could see the accident happening. And I'm just like, she didn't hear the actual crash, but she's like, what happened? I'm like, some people got in a wreck and I'm collateral. I need to call the police. It's like, you're okay? I'm okay.
Oh, dang.
But then here's where this story gets a little spicy. The guy who ran the red moved his car from this. So by the time the police show up, here's this little beige sedan that's clearly been T-boned in the side. Here's a green Grand Am with the front end of it completely crushed. What's that look like? It looks like I'm involved, and the SUV that's involved is down the road. He parked and came back up like as a witness, but like not as the actual person who caused it. And none of us had quite caught that. So the officer starts his investigation. Of course, it's winter, so he's pulling people into his police cruiser. I'm first, and he asks me what happened. And I tell him what happened. And you can just tell by his tone. And listen, we tend to support police officers on this show. we have enough police officers who've been on this show. We're very supportive. But this guy was kind of being an asshole and implying that I was at fault in this and not believing me that I'm collateral damage on this.
For the record, the story is starting to ring a bell. So,
yeah. So I'm the first. You can tell he's got my car. He's got my identification, all that. He's running. He brings in the driver who got hit, and he didn't see who hit him. He was completely blindsided by it.
Yeah.
So he wasn't much help, and you could just tell. Like, I'm not getting off the hook. The last person he brings into the car was the guy driving the Budweiser truck. And thankfully, he said, I was sitting at the light waiting for it to turn next to the Green Grand Dam. I'm like, yes. And, after the officer got his statement, he released the Budweiser truck guy. He released the guy who got hit. I was the last one in the car. And he's just like, as he's handing me back my license, he's like, sorry, I didn't believe you. I'm like, yeah, you should kind of listen to people sometime. He let it slide. I think he understood. I was upset. My car was totaled and gone, and I had nothing to do with this. And then to be accused of the accident, he's a little bitter.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that one sucked. That one royally sucked. So, yeah, been in a couple of accidents. Not fun. Not fun. That one was like airbag in the face too. So,
man.
Yeah. Luckily, no injuries from that. I was fine, but lost my car.
Yeah.
So
you're telling that story. You're on your phone with your mom, and you're like, "Oh, definitely brought a flashback from Kandahar in Afghanistan when I was there for a few months." 2010. I finally get a call out to my parents. I'm at work, little lull. I had a phone card, called my parents. I'm talking to my mom. We're talking for 5 minutes max at this point. And then the siren's going off. We're getting flipping mortared. Gotta go. I'll call you back. And I just hang up and I have to run to the bunker. And then get to the bunker. I'm like, oh, my mom was crapping her pants. So we get the all clear. I am getting this close to a fist fight to somebody going for the phone. Like, I gotta call my mom right now. Otherwise, I will have to worry about her more than those guys.
Oh, yeah. That, I'm sure. And I'm sure that was terrifying for her.
For her, yeah. At that point, it was, we had been there for a month at that point, maybe a little more. No, it was more, it was like halfway through. Never mind. So we were like, okay. Siren's going off. Let's go. We got to run. We got to do our due diligence. But it's like, okay, here we go again. Although there was one that I had just sat down in the porta potty. Like, I just sat down. I'm good to go. Sirens go off. Like, I'm not running. Be like, if it's my time, my family will be sad, but they will appreciate the moment. Considering between me and one of my cousins, and I got 15 of them, but one in particular, our flatulence jokes are kind of our forte when we're in the same room together. So it would have been like, yeah, that fits.
I mean, listen, if people have been watching this show and they know you, it just seems appropriate that if Big D is going to go out, it's in the business center, It's...
I didn't even make that connection. Well played, you magnificent bastard.
It's on theme, man. It's on theme. Oh, yeah.
The things I can laugh about 15 years later.
Yeah. I mean, not that I've ever been under mortar fire, but I know that feeling because, I mean, and you probably had this too, living in the dorms at UND, when the fire alarm would go off at like 2, 3 in the morning, and it's that do I go outside like I'm supposed to, or do I just pretend I'm asleep and sleep through it? You know.
There was one in freshman year. It was over in Beck Hall, so you would not have experienced this joy. But there was one that was at like 30 below outside. We're out there for 45 minutes. Because somebody jacked up Easy Mac. How do you jack up Easy Mac?
Okay, I'm going to share mine that I remember and that I was the most upset about. It was one of those working on a paper that was due I think it was due the next day, and I was trying to finish it up. 2 a.m. I'm like, it's 2 a.m. I'm struggling to think. I'm going to go to bed. I'm a morning person naturally. I'm like, I'm going to go to bed. I'm going to sleep for a couple of hours. I will get up at 6. I will finish this thing. We'll be good. So I no more than crawl into my bed. I'm maybe out for like 20 minutes, and the fire alarm goes off. And I'm awoken by Kidder, who's like, Howard, because Howard, fire alarm, you have to get up. I'm like, trying to climb off my loft, miss the desk because I used the desk as a step because those lofts were terrible. I miss stepping on the desk, fall, knee first into that linoleum on concrete floor.
Oh.
On 20 minutes of sleep, hobble my way all the way down because we're on the 4th floor and you're not allowed to use the elevator during a fire.
Oh, man.
So I have to hobble my way down 4 flights of stairs. I'm standing out in the parking lot, and most people are kind of groggy and I was just pissed. Like, ooh, we're rigging him up. Because I was in so much pain at that point. It was somebody had put a bag of popcorn in the microwave for 7 minutes.
What? Was it frozen?
I don't get how people don't know how to do microwave popcorn. It is not the hardest thing in the world. But apparently this is a thing, and I'll share this one with you, Big D. If you are in a North Dakota state government building, you are not allowed to pop microwave popcorn. And it's a policy that came down because there were at least 2 incidents within it was in a short period of time where they had to evacuate the Capitol Tower because somebody burnt microwave popcorn and set off the fire alarm. They had to evacuate. So there's a blanket, no microwave popcorn anywhere in a state building because of this.
Oh my goodness.
And if that doesn't make it any worse, when I took over the position I'm in, one of the big fiascos was our interpreter center up at the Missouri Yellowstone confluence. Somebody burnt a bag of popcorn, triggering the fire suppression system. And to get that thing refilled was like a $15,000 bill.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, Big D's got to step out. We're going to take a quick little intermission. Enjoy this lovely animation of a hamster running across the screen, and we'll be back.
So little D's just laying down to bed. It's 9:20 over there. He is so tired.
Yeah, Lefty texted me about 11 o'clock to say, "Hey, hope the show's going well." I'm just like, "Oh, you're still awake?" So I'm sure my kids are run ragged out at the lake cabin. So at least they're having fun.
Yeah, his little D's big thing of late is he loves stories. So part of the bedtime routine is 2 different rounds of stories. One are stories that have been put together by an author, an illustrator, and a publishing company. The others are just, tell me a story where I fell into a pile of wah. What? Where I fell into a pile of wah. So he falls into a pile and all he says is wah. Okay. He had another one just now. Tell me a story where I fell into a sticker bush and nobody got me out, and I was trapped in there forever, but I got myself out on my own. Like, very detailed. So we just pull stuff out of our butts and spend 1 to 2 minutes on it, and then he's like, "Cool, tell me another one." So we go for 3 or 4 of these before before it's all said and done.
I was surprised with as detailed as that is. I'd be just able to go, all right, the end. Good job.
Oh yeah, there is no like normal literary process where you have an introduction, you have the story and the conflict, and then a conclusion. It's just, here's an intro, here's the stuff, the end.
Yeah. Luckily, I haven't gotten to that stage. I mean, with it, Junior is pretty good with just it. We will sometimes negotiate on the number of stories he gets. 3 is usually the maximum. But if it's late, then it's like, okay, buddy, 1 story tonight. And then he'll usually go 4? I'm like, wait, what? No, what? So, and if he's feeling like he's extremely lucky, then he'll ask me to read Star Wars. And I was like, which the Star Wars Golden books are good, but he always wants to read a whole trilogy. It's not like he can just read A New Hope. You have to read New Hope, Empire Strikes Back, and Return of the Jedi. And it's like, all right, buckle up for the next 45 minutes. So, but I can't complain. I mean, at least in Star Wars, it's like, okay, well, I like these.
Yeah.
My bigger problem is he asks a lot of questions because he has questions about why certain things happen in Star Wars.
Oh yeah.
And the original trilogy, covered. Prequels, I got it. The new stuff, I've only really seen a couple of times. I'm like, I'm not as strong. But the other stuff, I can usually answer almost any of his questions.
Yeah.
Which is good, because he will see, if the illustration shows a ship, like the Millennium Falcon, he'll be like, me not know who's on there. Well, Han Solo is. Who else? Chewbacca. Who else? Luke Skywalker. Who else? I have to name who's on every ship. It gets a little tricky. That's why my wife won't read him Star Wars.
Smart lady. Yeah. Out of all the things to be attracted to, Millennium Falcon, it's so stinking cool. Heck yeah.
I mean, listen, I can't complain, It's I'm glad he's excited about it, and such. He hasn't seen he's only seen the Phantom Menace movie wise. I haven't shown him any of the others, and I think because Phantom Menace is very child friendly, except for the whole death of Qui-Gon, which I'm not going to worry about. Spoiler warning if you don't know about that. It's kind of an old movie, man.
Right.
but otherwise, it's it's not too bad. You start going beyond Phantom, and it's it just kind of gets a little bit darker as you kind of go through. So
episode 3, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll wait. At some point, I'll show Little D the original trilogy, and then we'll go from there. But we'll probably focus on Star Trek as well first.
Well, I mean, listen,
that's what I grew up on. So.
I mean, you know me. I'm not anti-Trekkie. I really don't have this feud. Kidder makes it a big deal. It's oh God, if you like Star Trek, you like Star Trek. That's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah,
but Star Wars has a lot more resonance with you and your upbringing.
Right. Well, I mean, I remember, we only got 2 channels growing up, and it was the first movie that my parents let me stay up and watch. And it wasn't even oh, I want to see this. They were like, you might enjoy this. I got to stay up and watch. And it was 3 nights, and they did all 3 of them. And I was hooked. You know,
Yeah.
So I was introduced to that before Star Trek. I used to watch Star Trek. That was you'd come home from school, and I think it was the 5 to 6 o'clock time spot was Star Trek replays, and it was Next Generation. So yeah, I used to watch that. I'd come home from school, I'd watch an episode of Star Trek. I just was never quite as into it, because I was like, the other one's got lightsabers, man. and I listen. I mean, you really would have a hard time telling me that a lightsaber is not cool.
Oh, lightsabers are awesome.
Yeah, I mean, no matter how you feel about Star Wars, you kind of have to admit a lightsaber's kind of cool.
I like them both. I mean, I don't care for the prequel trilogy, but I like Star Wars in general. So yeah, it's not a binary kind of thing for me. If one, then not the other. It's like, yeah, I'll go for both. Hell yeah.
Yeah, and see, and that I'm kind of interesting because I'm one of the few in like our generation and the older generations that likes the prequels. But for me, when I was like 8 years old, and I'm introduced to Star Wars, I'm like, this is awesome. I want more. And I was like, oh, no, they're done making these. But 4, 5, 6, clearly there's a 1, 2, 3. No, they've only ever made these, and nobody's looking to make any more. It's like to fall in love with something and think, gosh, it's dead. They're never going to make any more of these. They haven't for years. Mm-hmm. And I remember being in middle school and that first trailer dropped for The Phantom Menace. And it's just like, oh, the thing I love, there's going to be more. Mm-hmm. And so to me, that's I enjoy, the prequels. Are they perfect? No. Do they have problems? Sure. I mean, but like, are the Star Trek movies perfect? No. See Star Trek, the motion picture, Wrath of Khan, whatever the third one's named.
Search for Spock.
I was going more for the joke, but
I know.
Yeah. And so for me, I'm willing to forgive the errors of the movies because I'm getting more of this thing I love. I'm even that way with the new trilogy. I know people crap all over that. Is it perfect? No. But do I get more Star Wars? Yes. And I will be forgiving. I will totally admit that episode 9, I fell for all of the little nostalgia things they put in there. When Rey is clearly in the throne room in that crash, and the music from the throne room kind of plays softly in the background, and it's just like, like I geeked out at that moment. My wife can tell you. I'm like, oh, do you know what this is? and that's for me. It's because I thought this stuff was gone, and I get more of it, and so I'm willing to accept. Okay, it's not all going to be good, but at least I'm getting Star Wars.
Yeah,
so,
Yeah, the Force Awakens. I saw that in Korea on New Year's Eve 2015, and there was just so much stuff that was borrowed from A New Hope. But it's like, you know what? That was fun. It was a fun movie. And then saw The Last Jedi in the theaters, and it seemed like a good, like from that trilogy, seemed like a good middle. But I never actually saw The Last Skywalker until when I was in Arizona a couple months ago rather. And I felt like Palpatine was kind of shoehorned in there, but because Palpatine is so wonderful, I didn't care.
Yeah, I was kind of like when the first scroll comes up and they say the voice of the Emperor has echoed across. I'm like, wait, what? I feel like we're missing something here.
Like he went all the way down the thing with the thing and died. And then he just showed up on Exegol. Like, what? I don't care. Ian McDermott's awesome.
Yes, he is. And I also couldn't take fault in that. So there is Fantasy Flight Games put out a Star Wars role-playing game series. And they did three settings, 3 versions, and one was kind of, it's been a bit, so I can't remember the exact titles, but basically the first one was kind of your words. It was your smugglers, your outcasts. It was kind of playing Han Solo, bounty hunters, smugglers, and that. Then there was Age of Rebellion, which was more of the military, like you're in the rebellion, kind of more setting. And then there was Force and Destiny, which was Jedi.
Yeah.
And I had a group of one individual who worked for me at the Science Center. He's actually the guy that made this really cool wooden Suro board that's behind me. He had picked up the first one, the Outsiders one, which his name is bugging me, and it's really sad because it's on the other side of this wall in front of me. He had picked it up because he thought it'd be cool to role play Star Wars, and he had some friends who were interested in doing it, but none of them had ever GM'd before. And one of them was going to do it and then dropped out, and he's like, "Hey, you know how to GM. Do you want to do it?" And so for 3 summers, I ran a Star Wars campaign, and each summer we did a different one of these different settings. So we did the smugglers, we did the military, and then we did the Jedi, and it was all tied together. Even though they played different characters every summer, except for one person carried the character throughout the whole thing, which was fine. But my whole premise was, and especially because of the prequels, we know cloning is a thing. So the first one, the big kind of reveal was a clone of General Grievous. So I'm like, I brought him back in that. In the military one, I brought back Star Killer, which he's another famous Sith villain. I brought him back through cloning. And my third one, Force and Destiny, ended with a clone of the Emperor. So when we got to the movies, Jonah, who is the person who made that, he's like, "I think they bugged our sessions." He goes, "There are things out of this." He goes, "Reek of your storytelling." I'm like, the Force and Destiny one also had a clone of Yoda, which was an evil clone of Yoda. That was a fun. That was the fun kind of like twist, because they kind of knew by like the third one, like, okay, yeah, we got it, and that was the last thing to see attacked by an evil clone of Yoda. That was fun. It also had one of my favorite tropes. Was I had a hidden holocron, which in Star Wars it's this little cube, but it's like a book basically. But it was hidden in a painting, and if anybody looked at this painting, especially if they were somewhat Force sensitive, they would be plagued with visions of this Wookiee with a gray streak through his hair. And I never explained what it was until the third summer. But I had different characters each season who saw this and be plagued by it. There was just always this thing that I'd pop up like randomly in a session, and they'd just be like, "God, what is this? Why is there a Wookiee that I'm seeing?" I'm like, I don't know. It's a mystery. You'll figure it out.
Details.
They did. In the third season, they got it. And it was one of those moments where, again, like Jonah's like, "Oh my gosh, this is all, you like planned some of this since like year 1. I'm like, uh-huh.
Nice.
Yeah. But it was one of those things. After I did 3 summers, so, one of the groups, the guy who played the same character, was like, "Oh, hey, do you want to do this?" I'm like, "No." He asked me to like GM another Star Wars thing. I'm like, "No, I've told my Star Wars story. I'm done for a while. Come back to me in like 10 years. I might have another Star Wars story. Right now, no, I'm good. I've done everything I can. It's time for me to retire." So, yeah, I'm trying to think if there's anything else to talk about. Especially since I know I'm going to talk to you tomorrow night.
Right?
So, and it is getting late. And Big D, we should probably wrap this whole show up with some cheap plugs. And unfortunately, I can't make Kidder do it because he's not here. So, and I mean, I could give a good approximation. I will miss some cheap plugs, but I will. I'm trying to slap on one of Kidder's country hillbilly accents, but wow. Well, in that case, on that bold claim that you think you can do it, Big D. We've been talking for quite a while. It's time that we wrap this show up with some hopefully decent cheap plugs. Take it away, sir.
They will not be decent, but I got some cheap plugs for you. You let shut up. I can't even do it. When you're laughing at me, I can't do it. I blame Kidder because he's not here to defend himself. Well, you go watch that beerbluesbs.com. You go watch us on Podbean and the YouTubes and wherever you get your podcast, and you can listen to us on the audio version, or you can pull it up on the YouTubes and watch us and watch Big D make an ass of himself right here with his hillbilly accent trying to be Kidder, even though we should have Kidder up here doing his own cheap plugs up here. Yeah, that's all I got. Remember to drink your old-fashioned with a cherry. And, yeah, Kidder. Yeah, you need to be here, man. I can't do this. Like I said, there's only one ass big enough to fill your chair, and it's clearly not mine. So...
I mean, you did pretty good. I mean, you mentioned that, yes, people can go and see our stuff at beerbluesandbs.com. A couple things that you might have missed. We do have a merch store where you can pick up such great merch as this Howard's Cave of Wonder glass, or I'm wearing the classic It's Been a Week shirt because it's been a week every week. Always. And beyond our merch store there, if you want, you can help sponsor the show. We do a little thing where you can buy us a beer. It's a pretty simple thing. You can give a couple of bucks and hey, we'll give a shout out. It's a chance for you to be involved in the show. Also, Kidder, for some reason, thinks we need a second merch store. So we have one on Streamlabs. So there. You can also find us on social media. We're on Facebook. We're on Instagram. And we're making things like shorts. Go check those out, please, because like our numbers on those have been just dropping like fly. I've not figured out shorts, man. If this continues, if the shorts continue to perform poorly, we're gonna have to start making Big D dance because apparently dancing's a trend on those things. So, if you don't want to see that, you better start watching the stuff we're putting out now. And
there's no way, Mark. See. Big D do no dancing, do no square dancing, do no line dancing, do no twerking. We don't want to see Big D do any of that stuff because that will haunt your nightmares. And you will need to buy us a beer to get us out of our nightmares. And when you buy the beer, remember to buy a beer for Kidder, but it better have cherries and better have vodka and better be an old fashioned. And this is getting kind of drunken Irishman now. Shoot. And if you go to that merch store, you can get you're gonna picture the Big D with a big old ice cream sandwich right here in his face, because Kidder took that picture 15 years ago, and Big D doesn't remember it, but you can get it on your shower curtain, and then you can get Kidder arrested for being a creeper.
Oh, well, this has been a fun episode, Big D. And for the audience, you might be going, guys, it's a short. You're keeping this short.
Almost midnight.
One, yes, it is almost midnight. Two, I've been drinking a lot of this, and I got stairs, man, to overcome here, so that'll be fun. But the other thing is, we've mentioned that Big D is being reassigned, and he is going to be visiting us. So, hey, we're going to cut to the future where Big D is actually here, and hey, you might see a little bit more of that. So, hey, watch this amazing video of us in the future in a backyard enjoying some barbecue and shenanigans. I hope there's shenanigans. Otherwise, this transition is totally stomped on.
And when you get back from that video with the shenanigans in the future, you just got to remember, hey, don't drink in stairs because it's been a week and you've been trying to medicate because it's been a week, so don't drink in stairs. How are blues?
Yeah.
I have no idea what this is devolving into. It's getting sad. Please stop me right now.
Well, that's okay, because this is the part now where we jump to another transition back, and I get to say the famous 3 things at the end, which is always keep your glass at least half full. There will be free beer tomorrow, and by free I mean that, while we were at that backyard party, I stole Big D's credit card and he's paying for everything. And with that, we will catch you all on that, unfortunately somewhat absent Tuscan highway. Good night, everybody.
You have been listening to a UA production of Beer, Blues, and BS. If you enjoyed the show, help others find out about it by rating the show or leaving a review at your podcast listening service of choice. Thanks for listening, and may your glass never be empty. UA Productions presents A Glimpse Behind the Curtain.
I have no idea what the hell that was.
I don't know.
It started off as Kidder Hillbilly. It morphed into semi-drunk Irish, which is funny because I'm not drunk at all. I'm not even feeling a thing. And then I don't know what that last bit was. I was like, screw it. Let me serve this alongside a big old bowl of macaroni and screw it.
Anybody who makes it that far, they'll be laughing. They'll be laughing.
Had to troll him for not being here, hence the multiple old fashioned with a cherry. Right.